Hey everybody, I was thinking about uh, how I interact with women. More specifically, how did I learn how to treat women, or how did I learn to interact with women? And I think about stuff like that because, uh, for me, in going over, I like to objectively view my life kind of on a regular basis. And the reason I do that is so that I can improve, that I can change bad habits, and that I could try to correct mistakes that I made out of selfishness or ignorance. And I like to change my life, especially with having kids, but even if I didn't, I like to change how I approach life to make it better, to have better interactions with people, and to leave a better feeling with people after having dealt with me in whatever capacity. So I think about how I've dealt with women, just because it seems like that's the one where I've had the most. I won't say the most difficulty, but I'll say that's the one where I've had the the most unfavorable interactions. And I don't know why specifically. So I try to go over those thoughts and those situations and play back instances and see what I could have done better to have a more positive outcome for everybody. Anyway, so I think about, where did I learn? And I remember as a kid, you learn, as a boy, don't hit girls, and play softer around girls and play nicer around girls, and don't wrestle and all the roughhouse stuff that you would do with your boy cousins, or with your friends that are boys around the neighborhood. And I remember, uh, in terms of, like, if a girl hits you, don't let anybody hit you. Tell the teacher. It was always don't hit girls, but my mother was a little different in that, like, well, if somebody hauls off on you, you haul back, but try to avoid the fight, basically. But I was under no, false impression that I had to. If some girl was hauling off on me or trying to hit me with a hammer or something, that I just have to be. I'm a man. I'm not going. It was always to protect yourself. Basically, what it boiled down to, protect yourself. So while she wasn't giving us carte blanche to go out and just attack people, especially women in this regard, it was just more of, protect yourself. Don't If a person is, bold enough to hit you or attack you, they're bold enough to have whatever your response is happen to them. So there was that. So, and I never had a problem where I had to, defend myself against a woman in any capacity. So I'm thankful for that. But that was my perspective. Anyway, growing up and getting older, you think about, for me, like junior high, high school, in terms of how did you learn, or who taught you, or what were you taught about, like, dating? And I don't really recall much. I kind of learned by, you watch the people that are around you, your cousins, your brothers, for me as a guy, and you get the TV influence does impact you, music videos or TV shows. You see how guys approach women, and if it works out, you're like, well, maybe I'll add that to the repertoire, maybe I'll try that. So you learn that way. And as you get older, you learn, uh I would say to a lesser degree, if you watch porn, you'll get that too. You'll get some of that stuff is hilarious, because it's, even seeing it, you're like, yeah, that's probably not gonna work. I probably shouldn't try it. None of that. Probably shouldn't just show up with a pizza box and just get naked. That don't work out. So, but just all of those things kind of, or you have older relatives who are married and you see their relationships. But all of those things, when you're a young guy, all of those things formulate what your approach is going to be in approaching women, especially the first couple of times you're approaching a woman romantically. You kind of use all those pieces and you try to put them together into something that'll work. And whatever works more consistently, you try that more often. Whatever doesn't work, you don't try that. And I I think about that because I think about, how would I tell my son how to interact with women in regard to the different stages of his life. Like, When he's a kid, of course, you tell him don't hit girls and this and that, and tell people if you're being harassed, and tell somebody don't jump on nobody. Or but I would also teach him kind of like I was taught. Don't I wouldn't want him to drop kick a little girl somewhere, but I would also want him to at least get her off of you, man. You don't have to just take it and tell the teacher, do something, get her off you. Don't just eat it, because yeah, it's not a good thing. Anyway, but in regard to dating and romantic interactions, um, I think I would teach him what I learned to be true, and that's maintain honesty. Be honest. That works out. Be honest and confident. Those two things will help you have the most success. But um, above all, I would say just to be honest in terms of my son. Now, at this stage where I've been married for a little while and I have a family and kids, and in thinking about different 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 viewpoints, especially with the Me Too movement is at the forefront, but not even in regard to touching or interactions like that, but in regard to women in places of leadership or in places of authority. For me, I've never had a huge problem with that, because I grew up with my mom being the leader of our household, because it was her. And then I've always had female teachers, so I've never had a real problem with that. But even with all of that, not having a problem with having a female boss or a female in charge of whatever, even with that, it still didn't occur to me to if I had businesses and stuff, to look specifically out for women, specifically for black women, to look out for women especially. You kind of, when you pick people to partner with or make music with, or even partner with in terms of businesses, or partner with in terms of music, or partner with in terms of any collaborative project, you look for people who you hang around with the most. And for me, I generally hung around like my guys, whatever. So if I was looking to do a project or something like that, I would always look for the people who I hung out with. And I think it's the same for anybody. You look like people who are most familiar to you, and that usually means people who end up looking like you in one way or the other. So for me, it was a challenge to, not a challenge in that it was difficult, but a challenge as to look more into it, to being genuine in terms of, if you say you love women and it's not just a romantic thing, you kind of mean that, and you kind of have to approach it from that standpoint. You have to approach it as if as if you know as if you're not looking for anything but their performance in a specific task. If you're looking for someone to be an executive, then look for an executive. And also, even though you're looking for people, you tend to pick people who are like you. Look for, why not consider a woman? And that sounds crazy, but it sounds crazy to even have to make that notion. But if I don't, in my mind, if I don't actively put that in there, put that marker on there, then there could be a chance that I would overlook women. And it wouldn't be because I don't like women, I have disdain for women. It's just that, unfortunately, we tend to pick people who we surround ourselves with, as I said earlier. So I think it boils down to changing those mindsets. And for me, I have to put like a spray paint marker in my mind to remember to do that, so that I can broaden my horizons more. Because it's not that I've ever thought that women were inferior in any way, except for changing light bulbs and emptying trash. I have no luck with that. But it just it is, for the lack of a better word, I'll call it ignorance. I'm just ignorant to looking for those things. So I'm getting better, but I think it's room for improvement, lots of room for improvement. And so I'm pushing myself to do that more, to consider women more in the regard of what they can add to what you're doing in your life, and to make them. And that's even at this level where I don't own a ton of businesses, and I don't have a bunch of stuff going. But even in terms of collaborative stuff, to look for female voices, because it does matter. It does broaden your horizon. It does give you a whole new perspective, and I'm a big fan of new perspectives. So that's a huge perspective that I don't have any, any insight into, nor will I ever. So I look for those voices, but I'm also looking for better ways to even ask to have that perspective. So I'm working on that. So it was just a thought I had in my mind. How did I learn how to interact with women? Where did you get the thoughts and the viewpoints that you have? And like everything that on these posts are, it's an incomplete thought, but it's just what was on my mind. So there you go.